Hey, welcome back. It's break day for the Falcon. I have received exactly half of what I ordered from the Rockstar Auto Place. The other half is supposed to be here with the mail today. And I just went ahead and ordered all 4 wheel cylinders. It looks like it's probably going to need it, and for the small amount you pay, it's worth it to have a peace of mind that the car might actually whoa when you step on the whoa pedal. So let's get after it. So this is why doing wheel cylinders was the right move. That boot's disintegrated. That boot's disintegrated. Those are definitely froze up inside of there. The shoes look fine. We can reuse the shoes. The hardware is a little rusty, but it'll live on. Don't have any broken springs or anything. So we're just going to clean all this up, and then we'll get that wheel cylinder out of there and go back together. We'll show you what it looks like when we get it back together here. Updates. So on this side, I elected to try to use force to loosen the brake line fitting via an impact wrench, and that my fitting wrench twisted and the line twisted. So not totally uncommon. We'll have to get a little piece of line and make that. But this side has been apart, new wheel cylinder in, brakes back together. I forgot to order wheel seals, so we got to run into town, get new wheel seals. That's this piece here for each side. The bearings look great, spindle looks great. This side has the new brake line on the wheel cylinder, but it's not connected up here because I broke that off. Now moving to the passenger side, I took a slightly different approach. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. On this side, we went with our friend heat to get the fitting off between the soft line and hard line, and heat worked. So what happens in these, I'm going to get you up here, maybe you can see better, is this is a steel line, this is a steel nut, and right in here, especially with dirt, the front of the car is this way, that way, and dirt just kind of zing 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 hits these, and eventually it gets all up in there between the nut and the brake line. So tried to loosen that with force on the other side. That didn't work too well. Heat worked on this side, so we saved this brake line, which is great because that's about 5 feet of brake line from the distribution block all the way on the other side of the car. So we don't want to build one of those. This side is apart. New wheel cylinder is in. Again, bearings, spindle, everything looks good here. We're going to reuse the shoes. All the springs are intact, and we need a wheel seal. One thing I'll show you here. So this is why, you know, you just get that feeling sometimes these wheel cylinders are going to be junk. And yeah, so here's where we're at with the wheel cylinder. So in a perfect world, this inner circle here that's all corroded, I can't even get the thing up to stand up. This part inside of here that's all corroded, not just this middle cylinder part, but this whole thing here should slide, go in and out. That's not going to happen with that in that condition. This cylinder is completely shot, both sides. Water gets in there and just raises. Holy, I mean, it's bad. But anyway, we've got new ones. They're shiny new. Here, I'll show you. See, shiny new. So this is all going to be protected, and now this whole cylinder on inside this boot can go in and out. So these would have never come back to life. We would have never gotten any brakes, even if we changed the master cylinder. They're just junk. This one does at least have a little brake fluid in it. Another little hint on these is, if you do want to try the force method to get some of these pieces apart, you can take your little zippy zip wheel. This is the hard brake line that would have been on the back of this wheel cylinder, like this, but this is the part that comes out the back. Would have been behind here, down here. Pretty hard to get a wrench on this. About, you know, you got zero chance of getting a wrench on this with any kind of leverage because of the angles and the dirt and corrosion. So you take your zippy wheel and you go zip with your cutoff wheel, and then you can get a deep impact socket on there and go and get that guy loosened up. So yeah, we do have these parts. We do not have wheel seals. We do not have that little chunk of hard brake line. So we're going to run to the parts store, grab a burger, check the mail. Our other brake parts should be here, and get back to it. All right, here's where we're at. Almost ran into a big snag with the wheel seals. I should have just ordered them when I ordered everything else, but I figured somebody would have them in stock. Well, nobody did with the part number that was on the car, but searching helps. A lot of times, guys and gals, you get on the website and you just got to find it yourself. So we were able to find some, and here's where we stand. This side's put back together. Brake line, I did build my new hard line here. Fits nicely and comes up and hooks into the front of the distribution block. Passenger side, same thing, except no new hard line. Ready to go together. We're gonna pack some wheel bearings and get it together. As far as the drums go, how I usually do this, clean them out real well. The bearings look great in this thing, and then you can see in here, right here is where the shoe sat for a long time against the drum. So what I do is I take about depending on how bad it is, this time I used 120 grit sandpaper and just gave the inside of the drum a good going around. Got some of the surface rust and some of those heavier spots knocked down. The rest will wear in. You just gotta, once we get it fired up, we're gonna have to get a couple aggressive stops to seat those shoes and get rid of the rest of that surface rust. All right, we've got our bearings repacked. Our brakes are all on. One thing here, on the back of this, the backing plate here, there's 3 spots on these drum brake cars where the shoe rides, and I always take a little bit of black grease, disc brake grease or drum brake grease, put a little dab on each one of those spots. It just helps things move a little easier in the way we want that to, when the brake is pressed and when the brake is released. Now we'll take a little bit of, don't pay attention to the color difference in my grease here. It's all the same basic grease. It's just, it seems like the manufacturers just like to change things up on people. Put a little thin layer on there just to make sure everything goes on like it should. So we got blue grease, and then we got red grease. I mean, where's the white grease? It'd be really American if we had some white grease in there too. Our drum assembly. We've got those adjusters backed way off for the shoe adjustment, so it should go on nice and smooth. And now we're going to take some of our blue grease and we're going to come around in here and kind of give that a little juice to start with. And we'll take our bearing and slather it in red grease. And we're going to go slidey on in there. And then what's left of the grease, we're just going to smear on the front. We've got our retainer nut that we've cleaned, the parts washer, or I'm sorry, retainer washer. Then we got the nut. And now we're gonna crank this down a little bit, and as we start to tighten the preload on that bearing, we're going to start to spin this a little bit. And as those bearings seat, you'll get a little slack the first time or two. Then she'll settle in. You want it spin free. What you want to do is, you don't want this to wiggle wiggle. Shouldn't be any wiggle wiggle right here. It should just be solid, and there should just be a little bit of resistance in the bearings as the grease kind of finds its home. Oh, come on. There we go. It looks like it wants. We're gonna have to go a little bit more. Don't want to go more. If it starts getting really tight, then you just back it off a little bit. It'll be okay. As long as she's snug. And cotter pin. There. I'll give this a little clean up. Dust cap, make sure it's nice and clean. He goes on, and then we tap tappy. Wheel bearings, brakes, done. Now we have to adjust them. So when you're adjusting these, here's the hole you're going to be working with. Let me turn my light a little bit. Somewhere I have the appropriate tool for this, but here's our little wheel. And you can hear it kind of clicking in there. We had these backed way off, so oh. you're looking for here. Yep, that should do it. You want just enough pressure that you can turn it fairly easy with gravity in your hand, and you want it to feel like it's contacting the brake shoes all the way around. So this one's adjusted. We'll do the other side and go from there. On to the backs. Fronts are done. I'm going to do backs, and then we'll do the master cylinder and start letting it bleed. Quick note, pulled the wheel off the back. If you're doing your back brakes, drum brakes on a car, and you see a clip like this, most of the time that indicates that these drums have never been off. Now maybe there's some shop somewhere that used to put little retainer clips back on like that, but I kind of doubt it. So we're probably going to have factory brakes on the back, but that's okay. It's only got 98,000 miles. The back brakes aren't used a lot. They'll probably look fine, but I think this drum's going to fight us a little bit coming off. We'll see. Update. Well, we don't have a driving Ford Falcon yet. Managed to find the wheel seals for the front locally. Fronts are put back together. Preliminary adjustments made. Ready to go. Moved on to the back. Yeah. Both wheel cylinders that I ordered for the back through the Rock Hard Auto online place were wrong. So, but what we did then is we just went ahead and did all the dirty work. We're ready to go. Everything's pulled apart, ready for wheel cylinders. We were able to save both brake lines, got the drums cleaned up. This driver's side rear drum did not want to come off. That guy is not nice. Probably 45 minutes getting this drum off. We got it off in one piece. We were able to save the end of the brake line. So once we get the correct wheel cylinder, we should be able to go. Went ahead and also pulled the master cylinder. We do have the correct one of those, but no use putting the master cylinder in when you don't have wheel cylinders in the back. So what I did was basically got everything ready so we can jam on it when the correct parts get here. In the meantime, fiddled around with the vacuum modulator on the Ford. I thought I had a C4 in here. Turns out, did a little bit of digging, it's a shift-o-matic. There was the Ford-o-matic, which could be a problematic transmission just in the way it operated back in the 50s and 60s. And then the shift-o-matic came along, corrected some of those issues, and kind of morphed into the C4. The C4 and the shift-o-matic shared use. They were both in use, is what I'm trying to say, from the 60s to about 80s, early 80s, 1980s, something like that. Anyway, we've got the shift-o-matic, messed around with the modulator a little bit on it, replaced the vacuum line down on the modulator, checked to make sure it held vacuum. I have good vacuum all the way down there now. So I think it's just going to come to the point where we're going to get wheels and tires on it. We're going to get the brakes working, and we're just going to go. We're going to feed it the mustard, and it needs driven, and maybe that'll get some stuff loosened up in there. Otherwise, we'll have to do a little more digging. I'm not super concerned about it. It shifts well. It just doesn't shift automatically, thus the shift-o-matic. But yeah, we're ready to roll. Gonna tinker with a couple little things and pick up tools and call it a day. I found one more mouse nest under the dash. Gotta suck that sucker out of there. Suck that sucker. Got to get that sucker out of there, and then pick up my mess and try and go relax for a little bit. So we'll order parts. We'll wait for parts. In the meantime, we might work on something else. I don't know. Hey, this weekend, well, this video might not make it out by this weekend. Yeah, into day one on brakes, but something's coming. Thanks for watching.